Welcome, marketing chefs. I've got something truly special cooking in the Omni-Channel oven today. Marvel versus Star Wars. Up next in the Marketing Kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen, the Marketing Kitchen. Hi, I'm Ron Vining, your host of Marketing Kitchen TV. In this episode, Marvel's success demonstrates why Star Wars has failed. Disney Guest Experience 101. Give consumers what they want. Is it better to provide fan service? Or is it better to subvert expectations and leave your audience disappointed? Can we have an honest conversation about The Last Jedi? I hope so. As a corporate brand storyteller, I wrote a blog about why The Last Jedi failed, and I based it on 4 brand criteria. The link right here, and I'll put the link in the description as well if you want to read that to see where I'm coming from when I talk about being a corporate storyteller and just applying branding, brand value, brand consistency to storytelling. What went wrong with the film? There were too many story threads. None of them were fully realized. The story thread started, a story thread wasn't fully completed or fully developed. But when it comes to storytelling, you put forth a thread, the audience expects you to do something with that thread. If you put several threads out there, they expect you to weave those threads together to make perhaps a sweater, and maybe it's this red sweater. What happens, however, when you just throw out threads and threads and threads, but you don't ever fully develop them, then the audience gets confused along the way, or they're like, wow, this is interesting, but you didn't finish that thought. The Marvel Cinematic Universe was not as cohesive and complete as we see it today. It was broken up. And it was a puzzle that required a mastermind, a storyteller, to assemble those pieces together. You will notice as you're watching the video that I will use the term assemble quite often. I will be assembling the ingredients to the soup, and I'll be talking to you about how Kevin Feige assembled all of the different pieces of the Marvel universe that was fragmented, and he put it together into a cohesive story. The MCU is a fantastic example of seeded content as opposed to Star Wars new management that didn't understand the story. In storytelling, just because we have all of the pieces, everything assembled, doesn't mean that's going to taste good. Doesn't mean that the story is going to be good or work out so well. So one of the things that you typically do in storytelling is you storyboard. And if you're not familiar with storyboarding, I'll show you an example right here. You can make them quite basic with just stick figures, or you can make them highly detailed. It's completely up to you. But you need to map out your story, and that helps obviously with the filmmaking process. Let us assemble all of these key ingredients. Now we're going to put everything together in the pot to make our soup. The MCU is a fantastic example of seeded content across multiple years, so just over a decade now, across multiple stories, all culminating to Avengers Endgame. As opposed to the Star Wars trilogy, the original trilogy, fantastic. That was A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. About 20 years later, we received the prequels with The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. Then we had a hiatus. Then we had new management that didn't understand the narrative. Now, J.J. Abrams did a fantastic job rebooting the franchise, but then there's this director, what was his name? Rian Johnson? Oh, you're like the kid who tells the younger kids on the playground that there's no such thing as Santa Claus. Your version of Luke Skywalker is like Jesus being on the cross, all of a sudden just ripping the nails off, coming down and being this warrior who slaughters the Romans. It's like, wait, but that's not the way the story's supposed to be told. Oh, that's okay, I'm Rian Johnson, I'm gonna just tell the story my way. I'm gonna subvert expectation. No, you ruined the Star Wars narrative. You may have completely ruined it. We'll see what J.J. Abrams done at the end of this year. It took a mastermind, that was Kevin Feige, to seed content over several different stories over a decade to put together to the masterful story that we have, which was part 1 last year, which was Avengers Infinity War, with part 2 being Avengers Endgame. I just wish someone like Kevin Feige, who understood storytelling, understood all of these elements, these characters, and how to assemble them properly to make, in this case, a soup, or in his case, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know that if Rian Johnson were to subvert our expectations in my kitchen, he would try to make a souffle out of these ingredients. Oh, that's what you did with The Last Jedi. Going back to proper storytelling, let us assemble all of these key ingredients. And there's really no set way to do it, but I do have a process. So I'm just going to assemble these ingredients here. And I have a surprise coming up soon. It'll be a secret ingredient. Why is there a secret ingredient? I don't know if you're familiar with Andrew Stanton. He's from Pixar. He wrote WALL-E, which is a phenomenal Pixar film. What Andrew Stanton said, one of the basic elements of storytelling is don't give your audience a number 4, give them 2 plus 2. Because if you give your audience 2 plus 2, they will add up 4 together. A journey of them assembling your story or assembling it themselves as your story is unfolding makes them more engaged, makes it more compelling for them. So I saved an ingredient, a special one, to the end, because every good story needs a surprise. I think that's great for an audience when they're surprised. Not in a Rian Johnson type of surprise, by the way. We're talking about a good surprise. So for example, the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker came out. The trailer at the end featured 2 very compelling elements. One was the Death Star, and the other was the laugh of Emperor Palpatine, who we believe to have been dead since the end of Return of the Jedi. Now, for marketing purposes, I understand why they put Ian McDermott's laugh at the end. That's the actor who plays the Emperor, or Darth Sidious, or Sheev Palpatine. And I understand why they did that, because they want to bring back the old fans who felt dissatisfied by what occurred in The Last Jedi. So from a marketing perspective, that will draw not only buzz, conversation between now and December, but it will also make sure that it fills seats. The question is, will the Emperor be there as a hologram? Will he be there as a physical character? We don't know. I'm not really sure that if I were marketing the film, I would have led on that the Emperor was going to be in there, because that would be a major reveal. That would be a fantastic surprise. I'm hoping that the reveal of the Emperor so early on is he's just one of many surprises that we'll have in the film. So it was okay that that was a sort of minor reveal. Speaking of reveals, let's talk about a final character. And in this case, it is premium frozen meat. This is Wagyu beef, a premium beef that I like to put in my soup. This could be the Sheev Palpatine or The Rise of Skywalker. It's a compelling element that I brought in at the last minute that surprised you, that will make the soup better. It's amazing to me how the Russo brothers were able to, both over Infinity War and especially in Avengers Endgame, take the casts of all of these different film franchises and merge them together. All of these individual stories and bring them together. Very compelling. Give this film a 9.5. It was that good. To take all of these characters and give them their proper due, that is just amazing storytelling. This was a rewarding film. As both a fan, I believe a non-fan would get something out of this. You went in with expectations. Some of them you got, some of them you didn't, but I couldn't even tell you what was missing from this film because I felt rewarded from start to finish. And this two-parter. With Infinity War, I didn't think you could do any better with Infinity War. And I think maybe what I liked a little bit better about Infinity War is the cliffhanger. Just like The Empire Strikes Back, again, everything goes back to Star Wars for me. If you compare The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, what makes The Empire Strikes Back just a bit better for me is the cliffhanger, whereas Return of the Jedi was fulfillment. So if I'm going to compare Infinity War to Endgame, I'm going to give Infinity War just a little bit more because of the fact that there was the cliffhanger, whereas here we have fulfillment. That's not knocking Endgame at all. As you can tell from my passion here, I really enjoyed this film, and I know that you will too. One of the things that I absolutely loved about Avengers Endgame is that this film gave me every single thing that a fan of the MCU would want and more. Now, I like to, or I shouldn't, but I always compare lately. 2017 was a watershed year because Rian Johnson came up with the original story for Star Wars The Last Jedi. There's a lot of talk about Rian Johnson said that in order for the Star Wars film franchise to move forward, that everyone's expectations into the film had to be subverted. Well, I'm sorry, Rian. I hope you went to the red carpet premiere and watched this film, because if you saw Avengers Endgame, this is everything you failed to do in Star Wars The Last Jedi. This film gave a fan everything that they were expecting, but it also turned it on its head, but it was rewarding for them. There was no time wasted in this film. There were characters that were not overlooked. There were characters that were fully developed, that we were fully engaged with, that grew, that some of them, their journeys may have come to an end. There are other characters whose stories are still yet to be further told. That's not what you did with The Last Jedi. So, Rian, before you pin your new Star Wars trilogy, why don't you sit down and have coffee with the Russo brothers, and they'll give you a couple of pointers on how to put a film together. Because this was the perfect fan film. Perfect. The Last Jedi, I'm sorry, was not. Okay, all right, I'm done with that. I'm really passionate about Star Wars, and I'll be doing a video May the 4th talking about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I'll be doing a trailer breakdown and talking about this fan's expectations going in. J.J. Abrams, I have a lot of respect for you. I think you did a fantastic job with Star Trek 2009. I think you did a great job with Star Wars: The Force Awakens. You know, the pressure's on you. You've got to deliver in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker in the same way that the Russo brothers delivered with Avengers Endgame. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, there's always fresh content simmering on our storytelling stovetop. So whatever happens in this kitchen shouldn't stay in this marketing kitchen. I'm Ron Vining, your host, reminding you to invite your family and friends to the next episode of Marketing Kitchen TV.